I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, March the 18th, brought to you in part by Zach Tran. You know, with all this coronavirus scare going around and they're shutting everything down, shutting down all your bars and restaurants, and you can't get more than, they started out at 50, then 25, and now 10 people getting together in a group. The bottom line is people still got to eat. And you guys have seen the pictures, and you've been to the grocery store, and you see the empty shelves. There's no meat available. The beef's cleaned out except for the fake meat products, and nobody wants to eat that crap. But you know, they were short on toilet paper. I noticed in my local grocery store, short on pasta and things like that. But people still got to eat. And likely, if they're working from home and they've got some time on their hands, they'll make something, you know, kind of good. And to do that, you're going to have some meat, and most of the time it's going to be beef. And so we have really cleaned out the coffers of what's left in hand for these retailers, and now they're making big orders. And of course, we saw box beef cutout values jump big time. They jumped another big time again on Tuesday there, and yet your cattle guys can't get a breath. You know, they sold a few more cattle at $1.10, but they were selling them there on your later sales on Monday after a bunch of your basis jumpers puked at 105. But it's really frustrating that everybody had it in their mind they were going to get at least $1.15 this week and couldn't get it. And, you know, I realize there's a great basis there, but if you talk around and you talk to commodity people, you talk to other feeders, a lot of those guys didn't stay hooked for that full basis. They couldn't resist it. There was too much money in there in their short positions that were hedging their cattle, and a lot of them bailed on those hedges that they had. And if they did that, and then likely after they got done bailing out, because they just never dreamed cattle would get as cheap as they are on the board, then they likely watched it go down another $6, $8, $10 or more, and then probably decided to go long the board because they thought it'd bounce back, and then that didn't happen either. And they're probably very frustrated, and you know, if you're going to play that hedging game, you about got to stay with them, guys, because if you're going to, you know, that's like taking out insurance and then you know, canceling it right before you get on the road. You gotta hold those hedges. It's hard to do. A lot of guys that haven't hedged, of course, I mean, they're just completely without hope here. The board was up big on Tuesday, and that was great. But I thought I'd look in there and look at kind of what's going on around. You know, the sales, a lot of your sales are being canceled. A lot of them just because the receipts are so light, there's no need to have a sale. So we have seen a lot of sales be canceled. I saw a report on Galt, California. They would allow the buyers to come in, but not spectators and not kids and no restaurant and things like that, just to come in and get the business done. I think that's probably what we'll see here as we continue to see quarantining going on. But you know, a lot of our production bull sales that we have here with DV Auction, we have a jillion of them. I kind of wanted to give you a rundown. If you guys have a production sale that you might want to consign it to DV Auction, especially a video sale, and we can have a TV sale right there without even having to have spectators there live at the barn. And that's the way a lot of the guys are having to do it this weekend, and we're right in the meat of the production bull sales right now. And so if you've got videos done on those cattle, and we can just have a video sale, not even have a crowd come in, just have them bid online, and there won't be half a dozen of us there at the sale actually live. But on the video catalogs, we had 103 of them that we're posting right now on our online video catalog section. Over 6,000 total lots there. Over 47,000 total views of that video catalog, And if you look at DV auction there, over 485,000 total video plays on our DV auction video catalog section right there. So they're going to get a lot of plays. People go on there and shop for bulls online, just like they would most anything these days. We talk about our sales like we had last week. We had a ton of sales last week. Your online bids totaled around $4,400 bid, or about $14.6 million that were actually bid online there through DV Auction Console. Almost 1,000 lots were sold, and dollars purchased of our online at our production sales that were broadcast through DV Auction was about $2.6 million. So doing a lot of business online there. If you guys want to tap into that kind of a buying pool, get them consigned to DV Auction. This Saturday, despite everything that's going on, we've got 27 production cattle sales scheduled on DV Auction. You get on there and view and bid. A lot of guys are doing it from home now, so they don't have to travel, they don't have to get around. But keep that in mind whenever you're consigning your next DV auction sale or your next production sale, and make it a DV auction sale. But we're talking about how frustrating it is with your cattle. And I thought I'd give you guys a rundown. I got a good friend of mine, cattle buyer, commodity guy, does it all. He's a lot smarter than I am, and can kind of just sit down and scribble some stuff out and really show you kind of what's going on. We thought, these packers are making way too much money. The box beef cutout values are huge. The price they're paying for cattle is very small, and they keep it under pressure and keep it down all the time. What kind of money are they making, and what should cattle actually be worth? Well, let's just look. We can look on here and we can put down what our choice meat's worth, what our select carcass meat's worth. We're being very conservative. We're going to put 10 up on the prime. We're going to take a whack at them on the standards, no rolls, hard bones, all that, 40 off on them. And then we're going to use the national grading average of what an average load of cattle, top to bottom, north and south combined, are actually bringing there. And then we take that money that the carcass money's worth, the money the carcasses are worth times the grade percentage, and we can put that all together, and we can show that on an average load, an average carcass is worth about $235.71 in the meat. That's what it's worth according to box beef cutout values. Okay, you take that $235.71 times an average dressing percentage, which is about 63.5. That comes up to $149.67. That's what cash live sales of cattle are worth, about $150. And we sold some early this week at $105, and now we've sold the bulk of them already through Tuesday at $110. You think, well, the packers got to make some money somewhere. Don't forget about the drop credit, guys. Look at the drop credit on there, what it's worth, and that's about $107, $108 per head that your packers make off of your drop value right there. That should cover all their kill costs. Okay, let's make them, let them make a little bit money, but do they need to make $40 a hundred? I mean, that's just absolutely ridiculous. Making around $500 a head conservatively, that's ridiculous. And guys are losing tons of money on these cattle. And you've got to show people this kind of thing and understand what it is. Let's look at the board on Tuesday. April live cattle futures up the limit, up $4.50, which is better than the alternative, but still at $96.35. June live cattle up the limit, also at $4.50, and that was at $89.75 is all they're worth. All your out fronts on both fats and feeder futures were up, but not quite as much as your nearbys. March feeder cattle up $5.05 at $113.55. Your April feeder cattle up $277 at $110.87. You get way out there, and you look at your months when these feeder cattle really ought to be coming up, and they're not yet. I think it's time, guys. And it may be down hard here on Wednesday. I don't know. But I think it's just about time. How much lower can they go? course, the world could come to an end. We all might die of the coronavirus, and then who cares what we do. But I think you need to start eyeballing this thing. Let's dogpile the long on these. I know I'm going to do it. I don't work for USDA anymore. I can play around with some speculative commodities here, and I think it's time to hitch our wagon to the August feeder cattle futures, which would be a whole lot more believable at $150 that they are at less than $120. Let's climb on there and ride for about $30 a hundred. What do you think, guys? That would be a lot of fun, and we could enjoy it. We could support the market together. Even if we're just speculating, we could do that. Your hogs were up big. Limit moves in some contracts on Tuesday. Corn was down pretty fair. Soybeans were up big early and then settled kind of just even up there. But this deal is wild. I mean, wild. Hard to keep up with. Your fat cattle market, it continued on with a little more sales at 110 here, but we saw some dress sales that really come up, $5. Seems like they only trade in $5 increments now on the dress trade, but they were selling them at 170. Not a lot of sales on Monday, but on Tuesday, a lot of them up to 175 in Nebraska and partly in Iowa too. But confirmed sales on Tuesday through mandatory price reporting, 1,500 head in Iowa, from 109 to 110, 170 to 175. Nebraska, about 9,200 head confirmed on Tuesday, from 105 to mostly 110, and 68 up to mostly 175. Kansas had a few more sales. It was about 1,700 more and about 300 more in Texas, so about 2,000 in the Southern Plains confirmed on Tuesday, all at 110, and that's largely steady with what we had the week before. I did hear late in the day on Tuesday that there was some 112 paid in Kansas. Now, whether they get that hit on some kind of a formula deal or what, but the market is better. They are pulling cattle early. I mean, these guys are short bought. They're buying cattle on Tuesday and wanting them delivered, or they're wanting to pick them up either the next day or on Thursday. So it's wild. The guys are short bought, and they're still seem like they have all the control. If we can't take advantage, guys, it's unbelievable. We'll never ever get this thing ahead of us. We've got the supply coming into our favor, not your market ready supplies of fat cattle. I realize we have a glut of them to get through, but right now we're not working with too big of supplies. But if you look down the road, if you look at the inventory report from the last time, if you look at all the cows and the heifers that have been slaughtered in the last year or two, we're going to get this thing back in our favor. And I know we're in a crisis right now, but we've got to return some leverage to the market, or we'll never know what the market could be. What do we got to do? Like I've been saying, we've got to force a minimum requirement of negotiated fat cattle sales every week, a percentage of the volume for all your big packers. We've got to force that. If we're going to force anything, I'd much rather we have that than a cheese check or some kind of a bailout deal. We've got to force minimum requirement, big packers, minimum of their volume, negotiated cash sales each week. That would give a leverage back to your cash sellers. It would help your formula guys out because they'd get a higher base price to work with. And your packers are still going to be able to stay in business. Don't worry about that. Box beef cutout values, choice cuts on Tuesday afternoon up 15.57 at 239.93. Select up 12.61 at 229.32. Choice select spread 10.61. 268 loads of spot box beef cutout value trades right there. That's nearly 550 for the week through Tuesday. We rarely get that many. 6 something would be a big week. I mean, we're going to have a huge week. These packers are absolutely cleaning up and absolutely gouging your cattle people and your consumers and your retailers. They're gouging them during this crisis, and it's illegal, and it shouldn't be happening, and it's sickening to watch. And I tell you what, we've got to do something about it. And you know, we're looking to our cattlemen's associations to do something. They've got to get together and figure out what they're going to do. They got to get all together. They're more worried about who's going to get the credit. And well, who's going to get the credit if I do this? It's not been so bad during this crisis, but you know, we finally got some things out, and we're 3 weeks into this crisis. We've got to get some stuff done. Look at your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DV auction based on an 800-pound steer. Late on Tuesday at 122.90, down $3.91. We're losing all of those bigger prices. We got very, very light volume. So now whenever we start selling them because people are scared to sell cattle, it's going to make a big move. Your steer tracker, which are your latest sales, bunches of steers in that same weight group, just over $120. So that's how bad it is. But didn't have hardly any sales that had enough volume to really call a market. Ozarks Regional Stockyards, this time of year, you know, they've got those crossbred cattle with some continental in them. I mean, that's absolutely what your grazing people want, your big grazing areas. They usually have 3,000 or 4,000 this time of the year. They had, you know, 500 or 600. It's just unbelievable. Everybody's scared to death to sell them. Can't blame them at all. Just not a good test of the market. But did pick out some loads, and am going to feature one sale at the very end of this that is selling stuff like nothing ever happened. Kingsville, Missouri, Kingsville Livestock Auction sold 58 head of 696-pound steers on Tuesday at $140. Beaver County Stockyards, Beaver, Oklahoma. Man, they have good sales up there in no man's land. 62 head, 783-pound feeder steers, $128.60. That's impressive, but none like Denny Rezac Commission Company there in St. Mary's, Kansas. I tell you what, Rezac is going right on. They're selling strings of cattle, loads of cattle. Look at all these cattle here, load lots and bigger, that I pulled out of Rezac Livestock Commission, St. Mary's, Kansas on Tuesday. It's very impressive, very impressive. How about 2 loads of steers weighing close to 900 pounds at $120? That's pretty darn good. How about 58 head of 869-pound steers at $124? What about that big string of 124 head, 930-pound steers at $117, and a price that you'll find nowhere, 61 head of 823-pound steers, Rezac Livestock Commission, $125. That's your feeder flash for Wednesday.